Hello, my name's James Kelly, and I've got the great pleasure of interviewing Bill Free tonight. And Bill is one of the founders of the Teachers of God Foundation, and I'm so pleased to have him here. I've met Bill at conferences in the past, and he does a lot of online work. Bill, you're very welcome to tonight's interview.
Thank you. I just want to say namaste to all of our brothers and sisters on the path out there. I am honored to be part of this virtual conference, and I think it's just awesome that you and your teammates have put together such a great variety and a bundle that everyone can pick and choose the presenter. It's just awesome.
Great, thank you, Bill. That's nice. Yeah, and I know before we get into discussions, I know you do a lot of work yourself online and presenting. So yeah, so you're used to, because I imagine a lot of people who are coming to this conference are doing it for the first time, doing an online conference, but there's lots of material out there, isn't there, for A Course in Miracles people online?
Oh yeah, you know, this is the thing about the internet and the advent of these webinars, these Zoom rooms, and the access to content from your living room. You have access to the best of the best right here. For, you know, you can't even pay for an Uber to the airport for what this costs you.
Yes.
And you get this great variety of teachers from all over the world. I think that this is just amazing, and it doesn't surprise me. You know, this is the Great Awakening. This is the place where you can hear all of these great presenters teaching, presenting content of A Course in Miracles, and you're going to also hear teachers talking about other teachers of different traditions that are pointing to the same place.
Yeah,
it's really it's pointing to the place of what you are. What are you besides the person? Yeah.
And yeah, so you think that gives people the opportunity to accelerate their growth, really, because there's so many opportunities out there at this moment.
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I noticed you already used that word awakening. So, I mean, awaken to love, is that something you naturally use in your language or your day? Or you have that in your, you live that, do you, awakening to love? Or is that not maybe the words you use or the idea?
Awaken to love rings true for me. It is what we are. It really, love, I feel, is pretty much misunderstood around the world, but it does give people an understanding or a connection with their deepest love and understanding. It does give people a connection with a value that is palpable, a value that is in that if you have children, you know what that love connection feels like. It's unconditional. If you have parents, siblings, friends, a partner, whatever, love brings you to the understanding, or at least to make that connection of an experience that awakening points to. Awakening leads you to that understanding, that underlying understanding of connectedness. So awakening to love is being more aware of what we are, being more, and it's not that love is something that we attain, but love is what we are. And so awakening to what we are as love, that resonates with me very much.
And would you say that you're awake to love in your average day? I mean, is that something that you experience in your life? And what would that be like then, to be awake to love in your average day?
I would say yes. I am awake to love most of the time, and I reference awakening. I reference love. I reference being as God created me, or our beingness, as the same thing as awareness.
Okay.
As I connect with, and this is where other teachers would point to the direct path of awakening. Rupert Spira, he's from the UK. Muji, he's from the UK. He just took a little side trip over to Portugal to build his ashram. Those guys are also pointing to the same thing, using different words, different vernacular, different terms, and different practices to arrive at the same place. And in my experience, everyone has access to this experience of what they are as love, as beings, as awareness, as the awareness of love's presence, which is our natural, it's our natural state, it's our sahaja. And in my mind, this is so obvious that most beings miss it.
It's so obvious that most beings miss it. It's a
Yes,
little bit more about
right it's right here. Most beings miss the fact that you are awake. You just don't know it because you're looking outside of you for you're looking for it to show up in the course.
Yes.
You're looking for it to show up in a teacher. You're looking for it to be in an audio. You're looking for it to be in one of these presenters. And if I were to ask you, are you aware right now? Are you aware? What is your answer?
Yeah, I'm aware of this moment.
You're aware of right this moment, right?
Yeah.
And if I asked you to close your eyes and think about, just allow awareness to be present. Now the visual is gone, but awareness is aware of a sound. Awareness is aware of body sensations. If the body is perspiring or if it has a twinge, a pain, awareness is aware of where the body's clothing is touching a chair or whatever is being sat on. Awareness is aware of skin touching objects. Awareness is aware of sounds. And if I ask you with your eyes closed, does awareness have a gender?
No, it doesn't.
What would your answer be?
No, I have no awareness of gender at this moment with my eyes closed.
And does this awareness, does it have an age?
No.
Right, right. And this awareness, does it have a weight?
No.
Okay, this awareness, does it have a timeline?
No.
So if you open your eyes back up and allow yourself to now what we just did was we just proved that awareness is not it's formless. We just proved that we have access to a formless part of consciousness, which is our natural state. It's eternal. It has no gender. It has no physical properties. It just is. It's our beingness. And in my I'm recording the workbook lessons of A Course in Miracles this year. I'm on workbook lesson about 260. So I'm about 10 days ahead of the calendar year. And what I've noticed from the very beginning, the very first 75 workbook lessons are teaching the person to have the experience of noticing. Okay. Teaching the person to notice the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, to notice emotions like in one place, Jesus says to look at this like a processional, a parade going by, and don't label it, don't give it any attention to it, just notice it. And many Eastern teachers, gurus and things, and well-known teachers that we know, and I use this example myself, is we are the blue sky, the clear blue sky, and these thoughts and these feelings and these emotions, these experiences that are experienced, they're all like passing clouds. And the blue sky is untouched, unchanged by whatever rises in the awareness of the blue sky. And in my mind, when I'm doing the workbook lessons from the Course, I'm noticing all through A Course in Miracles how many places Jesus is pointing to the awareness of love's presence.
Yes.
We're removing the obstacles to the awareness of love's presence first. It's the undoing. And then when we enter into the natural state of presence, of pure awareness, now we're in the background and as awareness. And Jesus even tells us, I was reading a workbook lesson today. I'll read one little line out of it that I was reading today.
Yes.
That it talks about how obvious what we are is. And most people don't realize that the value of getting quiet. In
Yes.
quiet, I receive God's word today. And all that means is in that quiet place, in between the words, in between symbols, in between thoughts, in between the point of view of a person is always, awareness is always on. It's never off. You cannot have an experience unless you're aware of it.
Yeah.
So the Son of God that you are is always on.
Yeah. When you were speaking there, I just had this idea. So the blue sky is there, and you've got these clouds. So the clouds, from what you're saying, could be maybe thoughts or emotions. But are the clouds something you're aware of? But is there somehow an expression of love in those clouds, or what do you do with the emotions or the thoughts that we are calling clouds? Because most people are going, well, the blue sky sounds a bit boring, or not most people, some people would say that. And so what do we do with the clouds, or how interesting are the clouds? I mean, would it be even that in a perfect situation that there isn't any clouds, or what is I'd love to just explore that a little bit with the clouds.
Well, I love the question because, and actually in my vernacular, love is not an emotion.
Okay.
Love is our beingness.
Okay. So
and so when you fall in love with someone, or when you meet a partner, or you have a new baby, or you meet someone for the first time, the thing that makes you so-called fall in love is the absence of conditions, the absence of separation. You're infatuated with this being, and they glow. They're always on. They're like the greatest thing that you've ever seen. What has happened is there's no separation there. Love is all that's present. And it's only when the mind goes to work to start comparing and labeling and remembering something that it didn't like. So it's using its pattern to determine whether this person is doing something you like or you don't like, or right or wrong, or bringing up the past or something you begin to worry about. It's when all of those other ingredients start to come into a relationship that it starts to falter, because now it has conditions on it, whereas before it was unconditional love.
You mean before it was maybe just blue sky, blue sky,
total blue sky. The thing that draws us to, the blue sky, I heard you use the term, some people might think of the blue sky as being boring. And of course the mind would say that. Yeah. But the truth of the matter is, can inner peace be boring?
Yeah. A good question. Yeah.
Can inner peace, now it might be boring for the mind, But the cool thing about this, Jim, is that the mind is not separate from from its source. The clouds are not separate from the blue sky. They're just they're an expression. They're arising from this experience of awareness. So they give flavor to the background of experience. And what is helpful in connecting with the symbol or the idea as the blue sky is when these clouds they don't seem to be friendly, or they don't seem to be supporting the peace, the peace of God. They don't seem to be supporting joy, or they have some negativity in them. And if you have developed the understanding where you can shift into the background as the being and don't give attention to these clouds, now you can let these things that don't support you in your transformation, or they don't support you in experiencing the peace of God, you can just allow them to pass by, and you don't touch them. And that is sort of like what Jesus meant when he said, even in the New Testament, to be passersby. Just allow these things to pass by. Don't touch them. Just give notice to them. And in fact, this workbook lesson I was going to refer to.
Yeah. What number is it again?
It's 254.
Yeah.
It's lesson 254. Let every voice but God's be still in me.
Mm.
And watch this. I just found this today. It's just, I underlined it and put awareness in the top corner of it. It says, after it has a prayer, it says, Father, today I would but hear your voice. In deepest silence, I would come to you to hear your voice and to receive your word. I have no prayer but this. I come to you to ask you for the truth. And truth
Beautiful.
is but your will, which I would share with you today. Now, that's the prayer in that workbook lesson. It says, today we let no ego thoughts direct our words or actions. When such thoughts occur, we quietly step back and look at them. And then we let them go. We do not want what they would bring with them, and so we do not choose to keep them. They are silent now, and in the stillness, hallowed by his love, God speaks to us and tells us of our will as we have chosen to remember him. And so the metaphor of the blue sky and the clouds is one. There are many metaphors. The best one that I have found is the one where I invite to prove to people that they have access to their beingness.
Yes.
They have access in awareness, in the awareness of love's presence. You can have a direct experience as God created you. You can have a direct experience right now. You don't have to wait for the next video. You don't have to read the workbook lesson. And Jim, I start every day with my hand on my heart, getting quiet. In fact, I don't even get out of bed until the eyes are open to the awareness of presence.
Yeah.
The awareness of love as what I am. Awareness is what I am. And beingness is what I am. And so as I connect with Source, before I get out of bed, I'm starting off my day. God is on the field, and I make no decisions by myself because I have begun my experience in God as the presence of love that I am.
Yeah, I love that, talking about the start of your day. And I imagine some people listening to this would go, well, I would be far from my desire first thing in the morning, or, the thoughts come already. But it takes, what I sense with that is it takes something like a single desire for love, and you remember that when you wake up, and you remember that throughout your day. And there's something about desire there that just came to me when you were talking. And I mean, do you think that the desire grows and grows over a period of time, that we long more and more for connection and awareness, a blue sky or our true identity, and less caught up in an ego world of which is obviously very external and surviving here? You know, the desire, I guess, is an interesting one.
Well, you know, the first early workbook lessons, I think it's 28 and 29, talk about above all else, I want to see.
Yeah.
And above all else, I want to see things differently. So right off the bat, Jesus, after he tells us that nothing I see means anything, and I have given everything I see all the meaning that it has for me, in this practice of mind training, he's teaching me how to see things differently, and then he's inviting me to use the power of God, to use the power of I am, to declare my devotion, to tell the mind that is beginning to become awake. Above all else, I want to see things differently. That's a declaration of truth, and the mind has to follow that. And so he's inserting in the course the practice of taking a stand. And then when he gets into the other workbook lessons, 79 and 80, I love those two workbook lessons. Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. So he's bringing us into the experience of using awareness to recognize the problem.
Yes.
So as we recognize the problem, we are bringing the problem into the light. And in the very next workbook lesson 80, let me recognize the problem has been solved. The problem, or the situation, the issue that is disturbing my peace, is being brought into the experience of awareness, and that is shining a big light on this shadow, on this illusion that is disturbing my peace, so that I can then receive from this place, I can receive God's word, which is the connectedness of intelligence that is now going to be informing the mind what to do next, where to go, and what to say to whom. And that's the way it works. And to answer your question, does this, you know, can you come to the place where, or does this desire sort of grow? What happens is you have to want this more than anything, Jim. This is not a playground for people that want to kind of make their spiritual practice a hobby. This is not for hobbyists. This is for people that are all in. Because what happens when a little bit of light comes in, the light starts to break up some of those energies of where you have been hook, line, and sinker, a body in time and space, and you've forgotten your identity. And when a little bit of light comes in, usually it comes from a place of surrender, where someone says, man, I have had enough of this, or please help me, God, if you're real, help. Or, you know, maybe it's just a cry of your heart within, and maybe it's not a verbal thing where your thoughts go, man, I need help. I need help, help me. And the cry of your heart does not go unheard, and it will come to you as an accidental meeting where someone will suggest to follow this guru, or to pick up this book, or to buy A Course in Miracles. You know, I'm a Course in Miracles teacher and student, but I follow all of the traditions that will lead people to the experience of awakening. And there are many, many out there. There are many traditions that will lead you to this place of awakening. And desire for truth has to be your number one desire.
And do you have a story, a personal story that that reflects that a little bit. How did you get to that number one desire? Because, I imagine that is people listening to this go, well, I would never really be able to get there to that 100% desire or number one desire. I mean, is there some story that you can tell about how your journey was so that you lived that?
I have a great story. I actually have two parts to it.
Yeah.
Because I grew up, I left home young when I was 14 years old, and I never went back. I quit high school. I got on drugs. It was during the Vietnam years, and it was, I thought I was going to go be drafted. It was when we had a draft here in the U.S., and I went from drugs at 13 years old until 27 years old.
Wow.
Drugs and alcohol. And I did everything, and all of my friends did everything. And many of my friends, many of them are dead because of drugs. Mm. And I had a daughter when I was 23 years old, and it was raising, and I was asked to raise this woman, or this young, she's a woman now, she's 40 now, but I was offered to raise her by myself as a single parent. And when I was 27, I was still partying, still doing the drugs, still alcohol, mostly drugs. And I had a roommate that would watch my kid for me when I went out partying. And I remember coming home one early in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, and my daughter's laying there on the bed asleep. She's 2 years old. And I was totally stoned out of my mind and drunk at the same time. I lived in Austin, Texas. It was a party city. And I got on my knees in her bedroom while she was sleeping, and I said, God, if you're there, I need help. Help me. Wow. I felt like I was just, how am I going to raise this kid? I'm her dad, and her mom's gone. And the next thing I knew, I was in the Bahamas asking Jesus, the archetype Jesus, to come into my life.
Wow.
In the Bahamas, it happened. Jesus came in. I just thought, man, 2 months later, I wouldn't have had anything to do with Jesus. I didn't like Jesus freaks. We get that stuff away from me. But in that one moment, when I invited Jesus to come in, something happened miraculously, because I quit drugs. Ever since then, I never went back to drugs again. I think I might have smoked a joint a couple of times and went, yep, nope, I'm done with that. And never went back to any chemicals. And I quit drinking for 20 plus years until I picked the course up again. And when I picked the course up, I thought, well, I'm not a Christian anymore, because when I found the course, I said, Christianity is bogus. That's total deception. I deceived myself with that. But the truth of the matter is, Christianity took me out of drug use and alcohol use, and it held me until I could have an experience with the course. And when I found the course, I went, oh my God. Not only is all of that stuff true, even though it's wrong, even though it's misinterpreted and it's all like crazy land in the Bible, it's better than that, because Jesus really happened. And nobody doesn't go home. Everybody goes home, and there's no judgment on my brother or my sister. And in fact, judgment, the removal of judgment is majorly what is required for me to experience what God is, for me to experience the truth of what I am. I only need to let my grievances go, let my judgments go, do the inner work myself to have the experiences that are promised in the Course. So my second awakening was A Course in Miracles.
Yes.
And it was 20 years later. It was in 2006, maybe 25 years later. And when I started reading the Course, I could not put the book down. I read The Disappearance of the Universe first, and my sister suggested it to me because I was always trying to get her saved by Jesus. And she was always saying, get that out of here. And when she learned that I was interested in the Kabbalah and Science of Mind and Unity, New Thought teaching. She invited me to read Gary's book. I read Gary's book in 4 days. And yeah, on the second day of reading Gary's book, I ordered the blue book from the Foundation for Inner Peace. I booked a flight to Temecula so I could meet Ken Wapnick. I booked another trip over to the west coast of Florida so I could meet Gary Renard as soon as I could. And then I finished reading the book. And then I couldn't put it down. It was like, oh my God, this is it. And I still feel that way. I love the Course. I love that nobody doesn't go home. Everyone is a son of God. And this is the Great Awakening. I spent months living with Muji in the ashram in Portugal. One of my other great teachers here is Rupert Spira. And those two guys, I've had interviews with Muji, and in my mind, the self-inquiry of Advaita Vedanta is it's forgiveness. It's where the self-discovery of discovering what it is that's aware of this suffering. Who is it that's aware of this? Well, the only one that's ever suffering is what we're not. The only one that's ever complaining is the personal self. The only one that is ever questions, spirituality, or that questions whether the Course is true or not, is the mind that thinks it's separate from itself. And so I had two great awakenings. The first one was with Jesus, took me out of the drugs and alcohol. The second one is the real awakening, where I have awakened from the dream, and I know that Bill is the dreamer of the dream, and Jim is a figure in Bill's dream, or vice versa. And none of us are really here. And the experience of our beingness is available while we still live in these bodies. We actually have access to the real world in this very moment right now that we're looking at each other.
Yeah, I guess when you say, especially for new people to the Course or people that don't know the Course, and you say something like, none of us are really here, and yet we can experience our beingness in our bodies now. It seems like, okay, so what's really happening? Are we, the experience we have in our bodies, if it's coming from a Christ place or coming from our true source, what is that? And is that still an illusion, or or how valuable is that experience? Is there a problem even with identifying with that experience here in the body?
Well, the body is, when you close your eyes, and we did the awareness practice, were you a body?
No.
In the awareness experience?
No.
So is the body necessary for you to be, or to know the self?
No.
So in that way, yes, we watch the experience of the body, and we don't deny the body is having the experience. And in fact, you can enjoy the body.
Yeah. Okay.
You enjoy the experiences that the body is having, and the value of practicing the experience of your true self, of knowing yourself as awareness, is that the experiences that the body has, although they're not separate from you, they are not the primary you. And if you have an experience of pain, are you the pain?
No.
The pain is experienced.
Mm-hmm.
And for some people, they're in pain a lot. Sometimes the pain is, it's never been for me, but sometimes it seems like it's continuous.
Mm.
You have, if you have an accident, or you have a chronic disease, you have some kind of a body failure, or you're you're in the middle of cancer, the pain can be constant. And that would be the time to develop the knowing of what you are. Develop the experience of your beingness, because I promise you from my own direct experience, you have the ability as a being, as the Christ presence, as what God is, to transcend all sensations, all of them. And I've proven it to myself. I know that this is true from my own direct experience. I haven't had cancer. I haven't gone to that level, but I am proving to myself, and this is funny, I just did the Camino in Portugal. I did the Camino to Santiago, Camino, Portugal to Santiago, Spain.
Yeah.
And before I left for the Camino, I set the intention. I told people, I said, the number one thing I'm going to do for all of my walking, it was 150 miles, is to be present in awareness. Just be so immersed in the presence of awareness that I just live there. It's my default. And what happened was, the night before we were going to start our walk, I was coming down from a monastery with a couple of friends, a photographer friend and Lisa Natoli, my wife. She was walking behind us. And it was a little bit rainy weather outside. And the staircase that I was getting ready to go down was a steel, it was a steel corrugated, like a diamond plate deck that goes down to a steel set of stairs. And right when I was at the top of the stairs, Shawnee was on my right, and I'm getting ready to step down. I said, I am so ready to start this Camino. And I had been training for it for 6 months, walking 9 miles at a time. You know, I'm 64 years old. I wanted to be trained and up on it. And I had my water bladder in my backpack. I was carrying the weight with me. So I was ready to go. As soon as I said, I am so ready to start this Camino, I hit this wet spot. My heel came up off the ground, and I landed 4 steps down with my ankle contorted sideways, and my leg, and I have 2 brand new knees that are only one knee they're both titanium knees. One of them's 2 years old. The other one's 4 years old. And my left leg, with the ankle, it usually will only bend 126, 128 degrees. It bent 180 degrees. All of my weight came down on my new knee, and my ankle twisted around. I was in excruciating pain, and it was so much pain. It was like, and then all I could say was, no. And my wife, Lisa, and everybody's just freaking out that's watching this, because they saw how contorted the body went. And my wife, Lisa Natoli, is going, what can I do for you? What is there anything I can do? And I said, if just stop the pain. If you can just stop the pain. And that's the only words that I had for her. Otherwise, I found myself just resting in awareness, just resting. I was aware. I took the label pain off of the word. I called it a sensation. So I was just resting in this place of, I was just right there. I had my hand on my heart. I'm just resting. I did not want to look at my leg, because I thought that those knee parts were going to be like poking out of the skin. I didn't want to look at it. And I just sat there without looking at the leg. It was hurting like hell. And then the ankle was even hurt worse than the knee. And I sat there for about 5 minutes, and by now there's a crowd of people standing around watching. And from that quiet place, in quiet, I received God's word today. And I was remembering some of these great workbook lesson titles. I rest in God. Workbook lesson 109. I rest in God in quiet. And then I was just being in the presence of awareness. And then I got the words that came to me was, I'm okay. I'm okay. And then I looked up at Lisa and Shawnee and the people they didn't speak English. I said, I think I'm okay. Do you need to go to the hospital? And I said, no, I think I'm okay. Just be my crutches and let's make it our way down to the taxi. And we did that. I had both of them as my crutches. We made it down to the nearest taxi at the bottom of the stairs. And I looked at my leg. My skin was intact. Nothing was torn out of the skin. My ankle really, really hurt. And they took me to the hotel. And for the first 2 Camino days, I put my ankle up on ice completely. I elevated it. I had we were with 20 something people, and everyone came in my room and wanted to, be a doctor and be some help, some advice, and they brought me ice packs. And what happened from there was I thought I wasn't going to do the Camino. I thought, wow, I trained for this thing and it's over. And I was prepared not to do it at all. I didn't have any disappointment in it. There was no emotional, man, none of that was there. And I feel that it was because of the training. It's the mind training.
Yeah.
And it's the work of A Course in Miracles. It's being devoted to the practice, being devoted to being present. And what happened everyone was asking me, if you're going, are you going to go? I said, right now I'm just getting to put it on ice and keep it elevated, keep it up. And then on the third morning, about 5 o'clock in the morning, I started noticing that Bill was packing the backpack for the walk. And I thought, oh, wow, looks like I'm going. Because that's when you asked me at the beginning of this talk,
Yes.
Can you live in this place all the time? You can. You can make awareness your new default.
Yes.
You can make it, and in fact, you must make it your new default. You can't be as God created you. The most used phrase in the entire Course in Miracles is, I am as God created me. You can't be that if you're living in objective reality. If you're living outside of you, following this thought, following this emotion, following this belief, following this what this person is saying, if you're living outside of you in objective reality, you will not be experiencing what that phrase promises. But you can do it when you practice a new default, which is practicing the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural state. And that's when the mind begins to filter itself through awareness. Just as the Course in Miracles has a section in it in the Blue Book called the Borderland.
Yeah.
And the borderland is where the illusion lays side by side next to the altar of truth, and only the truth remains. So if you consider the borderland experience to be awareness, and you practice the new default of awareness as your background running all the time, anything that comes up in awareness, whether it's a question, whether it's a doubt thought, whether it's judgment, and you bring the judgment and you don't bring it into the awareness and don't touch it. Just bring your own, if you have guilt about something or fear, that's no problem. When you have sex, bring the emotions of sex into the experience of awareness, and allow the awareness just to be aware of the experience. Find the joy of it, the experience of it wholeheartedly. This experience is not separate from you, and what you are is primary. It cannot happen without you as awareness being there.
Wow.
And that is my number one teaching, is to point beings to the experience, the direct experience, and prove it to them that they are the awareness of what God is. They are aware of all activities as God presence.
Hmm. I guess that's such a wonderful story, Bill. And when you tell that story, and you mentioned mind training, and as a result of all that mind training, it's like inspiring to hear someone say, well, I've done all that work, and then it's because of that, then I can, in that painful situation, I can have a totally different experience rather than dropping into the fear of it, staying in a different, having a totally different perception of it. And that's kind of, as you say, the result of mind training or of practicing that. And I guess when you're telling that story in this this dialogue we're having here right now, I guess you're demonstrating how you kind of teach that as well to people, because I know in your foundation, Teacher of God Foundation, you do a lot of courses. So what's your take on this? Because I mean, people go, like mind training, that sounds like a lot of work, and that's such a lot of years. And how long are your courses? And what's your take on getting someone mind training done, I guess?
Well, let me just wrap up what I was leading to in the Camino. I actually did finish the Camino.
Oh, yeah.
I did 120 miles of the Camino. My first day walking was 14 miles.
Wow.
And the reason that story became so important to share is that I set the intention that I was going to stay in awareness. And believe me, the mind training to notice the sensation in the body, relabel pain, relabel it. Don't call it pain. Pain labels it as something that hurts. It locates it in a certain part of the body. And if you begin to train yourself to relabel things like awareness is key, relabel pain, that's a big thing for people with health issues. And what I did was I finished the Camino. I walked 120 miles. I took a taxi 3 days, but every single day I was tempted to give attention to the ankle, give attention to the knee, and or someone would ask me about someone would ask me, how's your ankle doing? And I would say, well, first of all, as soon as someone would ask me how my ankle is, oh my God, it hurt like hell. My attention went to it and immediately it hurt. Where before they asked the question, I didn't even know it was there. It wasn't, and it was like I was skipping along, no problem. So I asked everyone in our group, please don't ask me how my leg is doing.
Nice.
Not at all.
That's such a beautiful practical tip. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you have a partner and your partner shares with you something that's going on in her or his life, take it in, give it, put it on the altar for them, but don't keep asking them about this issue. Let them heal it in their own mind, because it's not going to heal in the body until it's healed in the mind. That's just the way it works. And for me, it's all about mind training. All of it is mind training. It's training the mind to come under and into the leadership of awareness. It's training the mind to pause. You have to tell the mind. When a lot of times when I lead meditation, I'll tell people, just tell your mind right now as we go into this meditation, peace, be still. Peace, be still. The decision maker that we have, our one remaining freedom in this world is to make a decision for what we are. And we have dominion over the mind as God's creation, as pure presence. And we can say, peace, be still. And now when we look at the thoughts of the mind, when we look at the beliefs of the mind, when we look at the monkey mind, we look at the fear that the mind comes up with from a story about the past or the future, when we look at the mind that justifies anger, when we look at any of those storylines that the mind is so involved and so active in, we can dissolve the tyranny of the mind by just being aware of it and don't touch it. Just being aware of it like an ice cube in warm water. And it just will dissolve back into the essence of what it is, back into the essence of presence, of awareness. And so mind training, for anyone that hasn't finished the course, doesn't do the course as a practice, my recommendation to you is do the course for 1 year, do all the workbook lessons, just do what it says, and that's it. Follow the workbook lesson, do what it says. The lesson itself will do the work. And while you're, you must be dedicated to this. You can't, like I said in the beginning, this can't be a hobby for you.
Yeah.
If you want the truth,
yes,
you want inner peace, and you want to live as God created you, and you want what the promise of the course offers, which is inner peace and the real world, while you still live in this thing called a body, you must make it the number one devotion in your life. That's why Jesus told the fishermen, hey, follow me. Don't go back to your homes and tell your wife you're going to be back in a few days. And this is why the Buddha left his family in the palace, and he went to meditate and to find the truth, because it has to be so important to you that nothing else is more important.
And you mentioned something there, like you asked other people not to focus on your ankle, or you're giving an example there, for doing something for your partner. You hear their distress, but you put it on the altar. So having someone else on the spiritual journey obviously is a major thing. I have this experience with my wife. I'm lucky to have a spiritual partner in my journey. And so when I come to her in distress, or I come to her really pissed off and angry about something, she just lets me do it, and she doesn't join me there. I look at her a little bit in surprise and a little bit in disgust. You mean you're not going to take my side? Or she just lets it wash away. So there's nothing for me to hang up to. And she just, so when you have a person to do that, but maybe you don't have the person. So, I mean, do you be that person for, students that come to you? And is that part of your role as a teacher, to go, when people come to you in distress and you're deciding it all, you're just being that, seeing who they truly are and let them go through it? Is that a valuable thing that you see?
Yes. I'm like you. I have a spiritual partner, Lisa Natoli, and she's amazing. And
yes.
we give each other the space to make mistakes, or to say things that that really we wish we hadn't said, or even to make our identity as the body, and say things about that. Well, the course it's clear on that. It says whichever is the saner of the two. That is the responsible one. And we just hold the truth for them, whether it's our partner living with us, or whether it's a stranger, if it's someone in the grocery store, or if it's someone that we're watching on stage that's a Course in Miracles teacher, and they're just vomiting all over themselves. Your one responsibility is not to criticize that brother or that sister or your partner or your children, but really, this is where pausing and just this is your dharma. This is a reflection. It's in your mind. So your responsibility is to treat it like it's yours.
Okay.
So it's a passing cloud. It's an ice cube in warm water. This too shall pass, and you need to hold the full light of the truth on it, and don't use words. Words are not helpful.
And that's a beautiful thing that you said, that, well, those words for me were helpful. Is it treated as if it's yours? That emotion that the other person, or the trauma the other person's going through. I mean, that's a connecting thing. That's not a separation thing. Oh, they're in a bad place and it's nothing to do with me, and I'll just be over here. But it's like, okay, that's treat it as if it's mine.
This is yours.
Because it is.
This is yours, and it's yours to do for yourself.
Okay.
We are one. There's one
Yeah.
mind. This is coming in. I may not take responsibility for it and say, well, that's his or that's hers. Well, if you're just living from a place of your beingness,
Yeah.
and if you're really accepting the role as a teacher of God, if you're really accepting the role as God created you, you're in the world, you're not of the world, and this is just a holy instant. You're taking this to the eternal, or you're putting it on the altar in a borderland, and you're knowing that this is just you're denying the denial of truth. Basically, you're a light holder.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a beautiful description. I love those words. Mm.
Thank you.
Or it's not the words that you're expressing really. It's the what I'm hearing from you is not the words. It's like, okay, this is an example of it, or this is the energy that's needed, or the awareness, as you like to call it, and that
Yep.
the presence. So I really felt that during our dialogue here, and I find that really valuable. I think that's what I bit about, so having someone that mirrors that for me is so supportive on the path of waking up. And I mean, I presume there's lots of other ways that you support people on that path as well. And, just this example today is beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we have the Teachers of God Foundation is the sponsor of what I do, and I'm the co-founder and president of the Teachers of God Foundation, and I'm co-founder with my wife, Lisa Natoli, and we offer online courses. We have the free 40-day program that's offered all the time.
Mhm.
It's a 40-day experience where Lisa brings you a message every day, and we send you an email, and
Yes.
you can practice the principles of A Course in Miracles in the privacy of your home, on your laptop, your smartphone, and you can really have the experience of what the Course offers you in a short period of time, because it really is a hologram of A Course in Miracles. And so we have the 40-day program. We have the Guide to 365, where Lisa also brings commentary of all the 365 workbook lessons. It really helps people to understand what the workbook lessons, from a teacher that's been doing it for 20 plus years, kind
Yes.
of give a commentary. It's just a short commentary. It doesn't take the place of the course, and we don't recommend that you do it instead, but it's really a help to have that support. So we have the Guide to 365. And then she and I wrote a course with Jesus help called Living in Purpose Mastery, where we
Yes.
take you through 6 months of really intense study. And it's really an all-in practice of A Course in Miracles with specific workbook lessons and text and practices and meditations. And we have a true prosperity course that teaches people how to live abundantly while living in the body using the principles of A Course in Miracles. And we just opened a new membership site at the Teachers of God Foundation called the Transformation Room that is available at different
Okay.
times of the year. I don't think it's open again for membership until November, but you can go to teachersofgod.org and you can find out about all of our courses. And then for me personally, Bill Free, I have a website called billfree.com.
Mhm.
And I do a mixture. I don't just do A Course in Miracles. I like to follow Muji. I do a book study with using Rupert Spira's teachings of the direct path. And I also offer videos and things on my website from A Course in Miracles. And there's access to our Teachers of God courses on my website as well.
So on your website, on the Teachers of God Foundation website, are all those programs online that people can just watch from their home and download?
Yep, they're all available online. Just go to courses and you'll see there's a different menu that tells you about the different courses, and then they become a member to our school, and they have access to those for life.
Yeah, but I imagine people, watching this video, they're probably going, do I get any time with Bill at any of these courses, or with Lisa, which she can say in her interview as well? But I mean, is there any personal interaction happening, or is it just recorded stuff?
The courses are all recorded in our Living in Purpose Mastery group. We are available. We do a monthly conference call, and we show up in the private Facebook group, and we interact in that way. And our courses have different, we participate mostly in our mastery course on a regular monthly basis. We also have our Friday group, which is free. So people that are interested in our teaching, we do a rotation in our Friday group that can be accessed through teachersofgod.org. And you can see me teaching, you can see Lisa teaching there. And one-on-one, we don't do so much one-on-one unless we see you in person at one of the conferences.
Yeah.
And where we met in San Francisco this year. And are you going to be going to Boston?
Yeah, the Community Miracles Conference in Boston in May. I'll be there.
So we'll both be presenters at that conference as well. We are going to be with John Mundy next month.
That's right.
In New York.
In October.
At Stony Point with David Fishman and Vicki Thomas. So we kind of circulate. And actually, Lisa is doing a conference in the UK.
In May as well. I think it's before or after Boston,
2 weeks before Boston, she will be in the UK with Jennifer Hadley, Corinne Zucco, and many others.
So there's opportunity to do live face-to-face, and that's where I met you in a small conference in Easter conference in Utah as well. I met you there, so that was so that's been fun, and I'm sure people will, as you say, they can do it from their home as well. They don't have to travel to conferences, whatever their preference is. Sure, they can meet you and benefit from all your teachings, and I think that's a beautiful gift for people, really. And I know you do a lot of free stuff, and as you say, that's really beautiful for people to get a sense of you without having to sign up for packages as such, but they can have those if they want them.
Either come this way or meet us in person, because we're available both ways.
Yes, that's wonderful. I love your openness and willingness to be a guided teacher, a person journeying on the path. That's just such a wonderful gift for everyone. Thank you, Bill.
Well, this has been my pleasure, and it's been my honor to be part of this virtual conference. And I wish all of you a beautiful experience with this conference. Just, take advantage of all of these teachers and just stay immersed in the truth. And if I could leave you with 2 things to do on your journey to awakening, it would be to practice the experience, just practice awareness as your number 1 practice, and then do what Jesus says and start your morning with 15 minutes of just quiet contemplation, quiet time with just being as God created you. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to read anything. Just allow the quiet to pervade your experience. And then the second thing I want to invite you to do is to, before you go to bed at night, every single night, pause long enough to remember the truth. Pause long enough to rest in God. You don't need to read a workbook lesson, although you can, but just rest in the presence of love. Acknowledge love, because love is what you are. Acknowledge awareness, if that's your practice. Acknowledge Jesus' presence or the Holy Spirit. I like to think of the Holy Spirit as being the presence of awareness. It's not anything else. When you access the presence of awareness, you're accessing all of creation. Everybody's there.
Very practical. Thank you, Bill Free. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.